Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are back after the long hiatus I kind of went on. We're back doing the President series. So, of course, we all know the drill at this point. We are 5 episodes in it. Are we 4 or 5? We're 5 episodes in. God, it's been so long. This is the 5th episode. When we ended off, the Republicans were doing really good. Civil War was over. Reconstruction was over. Garfield has just been assassinated. And of course, that means the vice president has to step up. So I'm saying, let's get this intro over with. Let's get started. Also, I got my braces off, so it doesn't matter, but thought it was worth mentioning. Anyway, let's start off with Chester A. Arthur. Yeah, Chester A. Arthur. God. So, Chester A. Arthur was basically, the only reason he was elected was because he had to, well, he wasn't elected. I don't know if they re-elected him, but the only reason he was elected was put in office, let's just go with that, was put in office because because Garfield died, as we saw last episode, because with Dylan's amazing performance of the assassination of Garfield. But, so, here Chester now has to run the whole thing. Now, back in the day, there were 2 types of Republicans. There were moderates, I think that's what they were called, and which was Garfield, and they were basically government jobs should be earned, not just you just give them whoever a job. And then there were stalwarts, which Chester was supposed to be, who was just like, you know what? You want a job? You're gonna give me money? There's a job then. In fact, anyone who knows who Boss Tweed is, Chester he didn't help with it, but he was somewhat a part of it from what I know of. But maybe not the scandal itself, but what did work for Boss Tweed at one point, so interesting. However, once he became president, he did a full 180 and was like, you know what? I'm gonna do exactly what my predecessors did, and did exactly that. Followed the guidance of Hayes and Garfield, and was basically like, you know what? Government jobs should be deserved. I shouldn't just give it to my friends and people who pay me. Another thing that was really great was the economy at this point. The reason I mention this is because the economy was booming, and the Congress wants to do a bunch of stuff, like, all this. And so, but Chester has the idea, well, our economy is pretty good. Why don't we just lower taxes? Mind-blowing, right? I mean, of course, hoping that the economy will get good so your taxes will be lower is definitely not a good idea because the economy is not great. I mean, especially right now, recently, before this whole coronavirus thing, it wasn't great, but, it wasn't terrible. Now it's just not good, Unemployment rate has reached an all-time high. Almost said low. I keep doing that because it's a negative. But basically, I got my remote for my tripod stuck. Got it. So basically, that was one of the biggest things. And another big thing he was also about was the Navy. He wanted, basically building up our Navy, making it stronger. which are both pretty good. However, besides these accomplishments, this is about it, and that's kind of all it goes. He only did serve one term from what I can remember, so I guess there wasn't really much there. So, before we move on, I want to discuss something real quick. The next entry is Grover Cleveland. Now, Grover Cleveland is the one president who served 2 terms, but one of his terms is a president in the middle of that term. So, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna just put both of his terms together here, and just put both of his terms together, and then do the next person next, and it's gonna count as one. It's just gonna make everything simpler. So, Grover Cleveland. He's pretty underrated, if I have to say this. Like, personally, I don't think Grover Cleveland gets enough praise for what he does. He's not like up there, but he's pretty high up there, honestly. Like, I think he's in the top 10 for the rating for my rating, which of course we'll get to see at the end of the series, which is going to be exciting. But but what makes Grover Cleveland so good? Well, interestingly enough, he was the first Democrat to be elected since Lincoln, because the last Democrat we had in office was Johnson, but he wasn't elected. He just was like, Lincoln also died, so, he just had to fill in. But yeah, that brings a lot of pressure. I mean, you're bringing in the Democrats back into the president's seat, and Grover Cleveland was really good about cleaning up places. That was his thing. He kind of cleaned up everything. He was pretty good at his job as a politician. One of the big things, so something that he did, he mainly restored authority to the president, especially with his vetoes. I'm pretty sure he had the most vetoes, and he vetoed anything that was any unfair bills that gave Congress too much power. The problem with, I'd say maybe either it started with Grant or it started with Hayes. One of them, Congress basically led their presidency. They were pretty weak presidents, and not to say that makes them bad, but Congress kind of led them. Grover Cleveland restored some authority to the office, like vetoing unfair bills, not giving Congress too much power. Granted, it was ruled by but Republicans, and Grover Cleveland being a Democrat, that definitely would make sense why he wouldn't want to do that. And of course, he had a really good first term, but he was a bit unpopular, so he loses to Benjamin Harrison, who we'll talk about next. But he makes a comeback. But his next term isn't as strong. He kind of just... I think he just kind of does more of the same what he was doing. Another big thing he did was, he did want to give back Hawaii to, give Hawaii back its independence, which we'll get more into whenever we talk about Harrison. He wanted to definitely give back Hawaii, and he definitely tried to. However, the president after him, McKinley, would make that a little difficult and just not give it back. Because today, we still have Hawaii, so... But that was Grover Cleveland. He didn't... And on the surface, he did do really good, and that was definitely why I rate him pretty high. So, of course, in the middle of all this, however, we got Benjamin Harrison. Now Benjamin Harrison is a pretty crappy president, in my opinion. He's really the president. He's really one of the 2 presidents that was really into imperialism. Imperialism is something I'm not really a fan of. And Benjamin Harrison was a part of probably one of the most shadiest parts of American history. the taking of Hawaii. Now, if you don't know the specifics, basically Benjamin Harrison did like tariffs, and really high one. Tariffs are basically taxes on import goods. I think. I'm not an expert on this. But tariffs. But one of the tariff was about foreign, I think it was cotton. Yeah, foreign cotton coming into the U.S. You'd have to pay extra to get in there. Now, savvy business owners who were in Hawaii realized this would hurt their bottom line. So they started to come up with an idea. The tariff only affects people who are outside of the U.S. So, what if it wasn't outside the U.S.? What if the U.S. annexed Hawaii? This would definitely resolve the problem. However, Hawaii wanted... at one point Hawaii did want to be absorbed by America, but the U.S., but now thought that the Queen, whose name, for the life of me, I cannot remember, is basically like, yeah, I think foreign affairs are kind of the problem with everything in Hawaii, and she was probably right. Well, she was right. But eventually, there started a mutiny, and with aid from the military, the U.S. military, they were able to basically take over Hawaii. It doesn't get more shadier than that. Really, and, and he really liked growing industries. He was a Republican. He liked all this stuff. The problem started when he kind of ruined the economy, and that was kind of just... It wasn't great. I don't know if Grover Cleveland was able... can't remember if Grover Cleveland was stabilized that. I know it was either stabilized by McKinley or when McKinley was in office. I know it got better by then, but... basically ruined the economy. And, ruining the economy is not a good thing if you're, the leader. It doesn't make the people like you. So, Benjamin Harrison is pretty low. I think he reached bottom 10. And personally, that's whatever, I guess. I don't really know what else to say. But of course, going after Grover Cleveland, now we're a little back on track, is William McKinley. Now, William McKinley is probably our most imperialistic president. The most imperialistic president we've ever had. Most likely. Definitely. So, one of the big things you can probably contribute to him is Spanish-American War. The Spanish-American War... the way it's treated in American history, it's seen as we're in the eyes of America, which is we're the Americans, we're freeing people, but we're not actually doing that. We're just becoming the new boss. That's like if let's say like John Brown, that's the crazy abolitionist, did actually free the slaves and said, you work for me now, you're all slaves to me. Well, great, what was the point of slaving me? We just got a new boss. I don't get the point. But that was besides Cuba, except we can interfere in foreign independence and we have Guantanamo Bay in it, so maybe if we're a little nice to Cuba, the Cuban Missile Crisis might not have happened, but it's whatever. Probably still might have happened, actually. I don't know what I'm talking about, but... sorry about that cut there. Technical difficulties on my end, but... one of the results of the Spanish-American War was the Filipino War. And the Filipino War is, of course, a war that's sort of similar to the... not at all similar. It's somewhat similar to Vietnam. Not really, though. But a big thing but America looks really shady. That's probably why it was barely covered when I was doing history. I don't remember it being covered that much. But Basically, to sum it up, it was a war where we rounded up civilians, put them in concentration camps, and then we also bombed places. I don't, wait, bombing wasn't a thing back then, was it? Planes didn't exist. We dropped, I can't remember exactly what else we did. Again, I didn't get much of I wasn't educated much. I probably should have done more research on this, but just kind of I'm just going to take the word from what I've heard that it was pretty bad. I think we were also somehow dropping chemicals into, we were kind of poisoning people with chemicals. We were killing civilians. It was bad. So, like I mentioned, McKinley did have the good, there was a good economy during McKinley, which gives him something, but personally, McKinley's score is really low for me. So that is why he's going to be as low as he is. Now, for once, one of these videos is going to end on a high note, not a mediocre note, not a bad note, a high note. Because today we're talking about Theodore Roosevelt, one of the best presidents we had. Theodore Roosevelt is by far one of the best presidents we had. And of course, what's funny about his presidency is he was originally vice president because they wanted to keep him out of the New York governor's office. But then McKinley dies, so, he's now president. You guys messed up there, but they're like, McKinley, you have one job. Don't die. Alright, I'm gonna go die. That's hilarious. Man, I should have Dylan do like a clip of that. I could still do it, but this video has to be out by today, so I'm not gonna do it. But, basically, maybe. I don't know. I'll talk to him about that. Whatever, not important. Basically, what happened was that Theodore Roosevelt was basically definitely the person to fight for the little guy. Well, I mean, fight for the common man. Especially with stuff like the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. The thing that makes sure you're not being poisoned every time you eat food from when you buy food, that you're not going to be poisoned when you eat it. Was also preserving national parks and established the Panama Canal, and was definitely all about keeping the negotiation, but also looking tough in the process. His motto was speak softly and carry a big stick, which I don't need to really explain it. Theodore Roosevelt was extremely popular, also really loved the media. In fact, he had the media in his house. Media as in, probably newspaper reporters and people who talked on them. Although, they did have TV back then. But, Theodore, I can probably talk all day about how good Theodore Roosevelt is. He is, Theodore Roosevelt is probably was really good. Probably one of the best presidents since Lincoln. Everything after Lincoln has been good, but not great. And then Roosevelt comes in, maybe being a little under Lincoln. I think, I know he at least gets the top 5. But it's going to kind of end out the video. Glad to end it on a high note. I hope you guys enjoy it. Also have a new outro. Let me know how that looks. And hopefully I'll be back later this week for the next episode of this series. Dylan will also be in that one. So if you're a fan of Dylan, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when that video comes out. And hit the like button while you're at it. Leave a comment too. Thanks. Bye. Like a Hellcat.